thought that it's for the trust itself. We just want to know a few more things about you because I think my demographic knows your work, whereas maybe the Jammu crowd is still trying to understand exactly what your journey has been and how you've come to where you are. So I just wanted to know first your connection to Jammu. Both your parents are from the state?
No. My mum is from Jammu and my dad grew up in Delhi, but his family was from Pakistan before the partition. So they had to relocate to Delhi. I think my dad was born in Delhi, but most of his brothers and sisters were born in Pakistan. And so my mum's whole side is from Jammu, and I grew up coming to Jammu over and over and over again. And my mom's side of the family, they're all artists and poets, and my Mamaji is Prakash Sharma. He was a folk singer. And my mom also did work on Jammu radio and All India radio. So they very much infused me with a love for the arts.
Oh, wow. So you've been born and brought up in the States then?
Yes.
And I wanted to know how was your experience, because I read up that you did musical theatre in NYU. So how was that experience?
Well, thank you for reading up on me.
Of course I would.
What was the experience? Well, so my parents split up when I was 12, and my mom's the singer, and she also put me in piano lessons and dance lessons, and ever since I was a little girl, I always made up stories and made my own plays and choreographed things. So my dad had a lot of reservations about me going into the arts. So the prerequisite was get into a really good university so that he knew I was studying and I could, I was smart.
The structure here.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to NYU, I studied musical theater. At first I was on a grant and a scholarship. And it was actually really hard. It wasn't great. But I
4 years, right?
4 years. Why it was so difficult generally is because New York is a very unforgiving city. I'm a very sensitive person. Even now, I mean, I think in order to write, you have to be extra sensitive. And I'm not just a singer. I write music that I then sing. And I write poetry that I turn into songs. So it was a struggle. Yeah,
because New York, the population itself is so cutthroat. I'm sure that everyone just has blinders.
Yeah, and I was 17. So, you're 17, you're not living with your family. I was working all the time. I was working at a clothing store. I worked at a restaurant. I worked at a bar. Plus, I was studying all day long.
To pay all the bills.
Yeah, it was really tough. But at the same time, if it weren't for that part of my life, now, in my career, I've done things like The Dewarist, which was a television show that won the Cannes.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, thank you. So it won the Cannes Bronze, which is huge. Everything has a scope, right? If you compare it to Bollywood, you'd say, so it's sad, not enough eyes. But in terms of the world of Indian content, The Dewarist was widely watched.
It was amazing.
And it was very celebrated, and it was a show that's essentially about the struggle and the beauty that comes from the struggle. And now, so if it weren't for my time in New York studying musical theater, I wouldn't have become this person who can so deeply identify with other artists who have that journey. And similarly, on the stage, I'm now a judge on a television show. Yeah, it's called The Stage. It's India's first English singing reality show on Colors Infinity. I get to mentor people who are struggling, who want to know how does one come to be the artist that they dream of being. So, when I look back on that time in my life as a student at NYU, it all makes sense. When you're in the drama, you're like, Are.
But then, so when did you move to India?
I moved to India when I was 22.
22.
And I had nothing, no plan. I wasn't really in touch with my family.
And you were in Mumbai?
And I was in Bombay, and I just had an instinct. Like my instinct said, go to India, something's there.
So I really want to talk about a phase of your life where my demographic was heavily involved in the music scene at that point in time, where we would go basically anywhere the weekender went because Shaa'ir Func was performing there. So tell me how that happened, how that became a one thing?
Well, it's a really long story, as all things are, but the abbreviated version is there was something really magical happening at the time when I first moved to India. There weren't any record labels releasing independent music. There was no English music outside of Bollywood really on television. And there were a few key people who felt really passionate about bringing this music to the fore. And those people existed in the live music sector, in the festival sector, musicians, the television sector, and even in the film sector. So all of us worked together. Shaa'ir Func formed. Our first album was released by OML. OML, we were the first album that they ever released. OML now does The Weekender. OML also produced the Dewarist. They also do a lot of work with AIB. So, and then also at that time, there was a venue called the Blue Frog that opened up. And the Blue Frog was India's first premier live music venue dedicated to live music. And it opened in Pune, in Mumbai, and in Delhi. And they also released a record label. So that record label launched Shaa'ir Func's second album and re-released our first album. So it really was a lot of things coming together. I performed at India's first Sunburn Festival. I performed The Big Chill then came to India, and that was a UK property coming to India, which I also performed at. MTV Indies launched. I performed at the launch party for that. So it was a lot of things wove together that created this explosion of, hey, India, there's this whole community of artists who are self-made, making music outside of Bollywood, content outside of Bollywood, and you have to listen.
I still remember it was so iconic because I remember when the first Weekender happened in Delhi, we were watching Parikrama, and then we ran to Shaa'ir Func. They were like, so just the entire atmosphere at that point of time, especially the indie music scene, it was beautiful to witness. So now you guys sort of parted ways with Shaa'ir Func?
No, we've been on a bit of a hiatus. We released 6 albums in 5 years.
That's crazy.
It was crazy, and I wanted to make a solo album, which takes time. And I also started working as a DJ. Randolph now performs with Gully Gang, with Divine. And Pentagram also went on hiatus. The thing about anything that's self-made is the level of effort and dedication and resources. Truly, it's about resources. It's unbelievable how much time and love and effort goes into writing that one song or making that one music video. It's for me, it's not sustainable for me to be a machine anymore. I have to live a little. I have to be with my family a bit more. But Randolph and I have been talking. When I got back from the States this time, we both have been talking like, maybe we should just, perform a little together. I'm performing solo now.
So the future, we can witness something solo coming from Monica?
I'm about to release my 7th studio album, but my 2nd solo album. One of the songs is half in Dogri.
Oh, wow.
And I'm really excited because I don't think VH1 or MTV has ever had Dogri on the channel.
I don't think so.
I'm really excited to take this language that my mom, I don't speak Dogri. I wish I did.
She must be so proud.
She's excited. But there's also this a little bit feeling of like, but your pronunciation and it's true. But the thing is out of fear, people stay away from a culture that's too rigid. Then people fall away because they feel like it's inaccessible. So I've never been a stranger to like, I'll take the criticism, it's fine. And I love the language, and I love folk music also. It's all about storytelling, so I took this story, this folk story, and I told my own story on top of it in English.
Oh, wow.
And I mashed it up, and it's this really fat bass dance song. So and I shot a music video for it.
So can't wait to see the album, listen to the album, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.